Welcome to Black Sheep, where I take a look at entries in video game franchises that were poorly received or controversial among the fans. Now, I won't be dwelling on the negative aspects of these games. Instead, I'll be looking in detail at things I like about the games, whether it was the story, gameplay, music, or anything else it contained, and see if they're really deserving of the infamy that they have. For this episode, we will be looking at Assassin's Creed Unity. The Assassin's Creed series made its debut on the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC in 2007, and the historical fiction stories of the Assassins and the Templars have been entertaining players everywhere since. The original game was published and developed by Ubisoft, and provided an engaging action-adventure set during the Crusades. The game was an incredible success, and 2 years later the sequel, set during the Renaissance, was an even greater hit. After the release of Assassin's Creed 2, Ubisoft made Assassin's Creed an annual franchise, with a new main series installment, along with some spin-offs being released every year. The main series continued with titles like Brotherhood, Assassin's Creed 3, and the pirate-themed Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Black Flag was released on both the 7th and 8th generation consoles, and for the next big installment, Ubisoft wanted a game made exclusively for systems like the Xbox One. And this game was Assassin's Creed Unity. Assassin's Creed Unity was released in 2014 on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. It featured improved visuals from previous entries, as well as introducing several new gameplay mechanics, most significantly, cooperative play with other players. One of the most compelling things about Unity is its story, as the events of the game are set during the height of the French Revolution. So let's take a look at the tale of Assassin's Creed Unity. The main character of Assassin's Creed Unity is Arnaud Dorian, a young boy who happens to be the son of an assassin. Arnaud's father is murdered, and he is taken to live with de la Serre and his daughter Elise. Years later, Arnaud has fallen in love with Elise and helps take care of the de la Serre estate. Arnaud is tasked one day to deliver a message to his master, but sets it aside for later and instead sneaks off to see Elise at a party. Later that evening, de la Serre is murdered, as he never received the message of warning from his comrades. After a brief stint in a Bastille, Arnaud seeks out the assassins located in Paris and begins a quest to avenge de la Serre's murder. Arnaud later learns that Elise's father was the Grand Master of the Templar Order, and that Elise herself is a Templar. While there is a good deal of tension between the two characters, they eventually start working together, and discover that a man named Francois Thomas Germain killed Elise's father and has established himself as the new Grand Master of the Templar. Not only that, Germain has been secretly influencing events to make it so that the French people revolt against their king. With a revolution on the horizon, Elise and Arnaud plead with the assassins to come to a truce, so that the main threat, Germain, can be stopped. Unfortunately, several more deaths and a betrayal from one of the lead assassins seems to dash any hope of a solid plan. Arnaud is expelled from the order, and he falls into despair for several months. Elise eventually finds him, and the duo return to Paris to stop Germain once and for all. After finding Germain, Arnaud and Elise do battle with the Grand Master, but sadly, Elise is killed during the fight. Arnaud defeats Germain, and the game ends with him rejoining the Assassin Order and reflecting on how the creed of the Assassins has changed.
In the end, only we ourselves can guard against our obsessions. Only we can decide whether the road we walk carries too high a toll. We believe ourselves redeemers, avengers, saviors. We make war on those who oppose us, and they in turn make war on us. We dream of leaving our stamp upon the world. Even as we give our lives in a conflict that will be recorded in no history book. All that we do, all that we are, begins and ends with ourselves.
The story in previous Assassin's Creed games has been relatively straightforward in following the ongoing war between the Assassins and the Templars, with usually the Templars being portrayed as very evil people. Unity brings up some interesting points in the story by pointing out that the Assassins may not be as noble as they seem, and that there are forces for good in the Templars, suggesting that the two rivals have more in common than they think. The heart of this story, though, is the relationship between Arno and Elise, as it is really fascinating seeing two people who would normally be mortal enemies work together and fall in love.
You look like hell.
You look like you want something from me.
That's a fine thing to say after you up and vanished.
You made it fairly clear you no longer required my services.
Don't you dare talk to me like that.
What do you expect me to say, Elise? Forgive me for not letting you die? I'm sorry that I care more about you than about killing Germain.
I thought we wanted the same thing.
What I wanted was you. I can't bear the fact that my carelessness got your father killed. Everything I've done since then has been to fix that mistake and to prevent it from happening again.
Elise actually ended up being my favorite character in the game, but Arno does have some good moments of his own, like when he confronts the assassin Bellic. There's also something to be said for the historical setting of Unity, as you get to interact with many important events during the French Revolution. You'll meet famous characters like Napoleon, as well as many other men and women who were involved in this period of French history. There are plenty of liberties taken with what may have actually happened during the Revolution, but the Assassin's Creed series has always been very much historical fiction, with some science fiction elements mixed with the modern-day storyline. Speaking of which, Unity barely has any of the modern-day storyline in it. Honestly, it seems like ever since Desmond, the main character of the series, was killed off, the modern-day aspect of the series has been treading water, so to speak. The extent of the modern story in Unity is you being hacked by assassins while using Helix, an Abstergo, aka Templar, product, so they can use your experience with Arno to discover what happened to Germain. This storyline is swiftly wrapped up in the game's end credits, as the assassins say they'll never have to worry about the Templars finding Germain's body, as it is now part of the catacombs of Paris. While I really enjoyed the main story of Assassin's Creed Unity overall, I will say that the modern-day storyline is not especially interesting. I'm hoping that Ubisoft will fix this in future installments, as there is some awesome potential for this aspect of the series. They just need to move the plot forward in a more meaningful way than they have been. Moving on from the story, we have the gameplay of Assassin's Creed Unity. Overall, the core gameplay is relatively unchanged from previous entries. You'll still scale buildings, leap from rooftops, and try to sneak around and blend with the crowd to reach your targets. Unity introduced some new movement mechanics, like going inside of buildings, as well as letting you now quickly descend from rooftops, a feature the series previously lacked aside from the infamous hay bales. Assassin's Creed Unity also contains skill trees for Arno, giving him access to new abilities and tools as you level up. Some of these new weapons, like the Phantom Blade, are pretty spiffy and very useful, and the various clothing items that Arno can purchase and equip will boost his performance with certain weapons and abilities. The game also gave players extra side missions with the Assassin's Contracts, crowd events, and most importantly, the Cafe Theater, which is your primary source of income in the game. By renovating the theater and opening up cafes across Paris, you'll increase the amount of money you receive in timed intervals, and since the late-game equipment is incredibly expensive, you'll need all the money you can get. Perhaps the most notable addition to the series with Unity was the introduction of co-op gameplay. Previous entries in the franchise had various multiplayer modes, but Ubisoft removed these in Unity in favor of letting players work together with their friends in co-op. Admittedly, I was pleasantly surprised with how easy it was for me to find co-op games, as I went in expecting the opposite. There was actually a decent amount of people still playing the game, and I hardly ever had to wait for players to join co-op missions. As for the quality of the missions themselves, I find it a bit harder to give an opinion on. The feeling of working together and helping your teammates when they get knocked down was pretty neat, but every session I played ultimately just ended up in a big brawl with the Templar forces, as it was exceedingly difficult to remain stealthy and undetected when you have 3 other players running around the map. It might have been just me, but as interesting as the idea of co-op is, I didn't find it quite as enjoyable as the single-player missions. Still, I commend Ubisoft for trying something new with the series, and maybe if they bring the co-op feature back, they'll find a better way to implement it with the core gameplay of Assassin's Creed. There definitely isn't a lack of things to do in Assassin's Creed Unity, and completionists will be kept busy for days if you are trying to 100% the tasks around Paris. Thankfully, Ubisoft did an amazing job of bringing the world of revolutionary Paris to life, and seeing and climbing all the landmarks like Notre Dame and the Palace of Justice is incredible. The crowd sizes have also doubled, and Unity features some of the most character models I've ever seen on screen at once. The visuals of the Assassin's Creed series have always been one of its high points, and Unity does contain some well-designed characters and some breathtaking cityscapes to traverse. So what makes Assassin's Creed Unity a black sheep? First off, it had one of the buggiest launches in video game history, with clipping issues, game freezes, animation errors, and parts of the character's anatomy disappearing altogether, leading to some freaky results. With a huge backlash of technical issues, Ubisoft responded by apologizing and saying that the game was released before all the technical problems had been fully worked out, and as such, prevented users from experiencing the game to its full potential. Aside from the large amount of glitches and bugs, there was some controversy surrounding Unity, namely the lack of female characters in the co-op mode. Players could only play as their version of Arno in co-op, meaning the game lacked the female characters available in previous multiplayer modes. In addition to these issues, many felt that Unity wasn't a true next-gen leap for the series, and that it was missing many aspects that people enjoyed in previous chapters of the franchise. Today, all of Assassin's Creed Unity's technical problems have been fixed. Well, almost all of them. I did get stuck on a mission once because a character didn't move to where they were supposed to, and one time Arno kept flailing his arms indefinitely in the air. A few technical hiccups aside, my recent playthrough of Unity was very smooth, and I had fun with the single-player campaign. Despite the game running fairly well now, the issues at launch and some of the criticisms Ubisoft received made them rethink their direction for the series. 1 year after Unity, we received the most recent main entry in the franchise with Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Syndicate addressed a number of the issues players had with Unity, and also starred, in my opinion, one of the best characters in the entire series, Evie Frye. After the release of Syndicate, Ubisoft announced that the Assassin's Creed franchise would no longer be getting annual releases, so that they could have longer development times to ensure the quality of the series moving forward. I personally think this was a very smart decision, because even though I enjoyed Unity, and I greatly enjoyed Syndicate, I think the developers need more time to work on the next chapter, and perhaps go back to what people love about the series. The pressure for annual releases did affect the evolution of the franchise, and Ubisoft realized this and made the right call by slowing things down. It'll be neat to see where Ubisoft takes this franchise in the future, and I'm hopeful that the next story of the Assassins and Templars will become one of the best.
Oh no! Are you alright?
I'm alright!
Thank you for watching this episode of Black Sheep. What are your thoughts on Assassin's Creed Unity? Any other Black Sheep games you want me to take a look at? Feel free to share in the comments below. Until next time, keep having great adventures, everyone.